Well, Razorback fans, this Notre Dame game, it's going to tell us everything. Let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for the highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward with Mazda. Mazda, move and be moved. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Friday as you finally made it to the end of the week. It's the weekend, essentially. Razorback football going to be happening in I guess depending on when you're listening to this, but it's going to be happening in about 24 hours or less. And we'll have some conversations about communication. I think it's important. I'll tell you what I mean by that. And also looking into the SEC as well as some other things too. But, we've talked about this game and we've talked about it with Locked On Irish, the little crossover edition that we did yesterday. And we've gone through it. We know the stats. We know the numbers. We know that Arkansas is sitting at 2 losses. We got Notre Dame sitting at 2 losses. I don't think either program, either fan base, either group felt like this would be the case, that this is what the game would look like, where there'd be 4 combined losses between the 2 teams. And it's true. I remember when the game was announced that Arkansas was going to be playing Notre Dame, I really didn't care about anything else just because it was going to be such a cool thing. It was such a cool thing because it's never happened before. And the fact that this game's happening in Fayetteville, given the circumstances, and just being honest with you, it's never going to happen again in Fayetteville. Like playing Notre Dame in Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium or whatever ends up being named. But whatever it ends up being, it's going to be a one-time deal. So because of that fact, I think a lot of Razorback fans agreed with me and kind of feel the same way that I do of, hey, this is going to be a really prestigious event. It's going to be a rare thing. We're going to show up regardless of what the game is or regardless of what the current status is. I think there's going to be 70,000 plus fans there. I know it's 11 a.m. The weather's going to be beautiful, and it's Notre Dame. But that's about it. I think that the majority of Razorback fans, if this was any other team that Arkansas was playing besides Notre Dame, they would be pretty meh about it. Some would go no matter what. Some would be excited no matter what. But some, and a lot of you would kind of just shrug your shoulders back, whatever. Don't want to deal with this. But the uncertainty is certainly being felt right now. There was a strong emotional reaction to that Memphis game. I was one of them. And now that time has gone on, it's cooled off. Not to say that people have stopped being mad or wanting change or anything like that. It's just cooled down a little bit because now you got to say, well, we still got a game. Still got a game against Notre Dame. But we don't know what is going to happen in this game. We don't know if this game is going to have any actual consequences based on the rest of the season or the tenure of a head coach or the tenure of an athletic director or tenure of a coordinator or whatever. None of us really know if that's even going to be a thing because it's been business as usual. Nothing has changed as far as job status. Nobody's gotten fired. And, there's not been any reports other than that small little one about Bobby Petrino, which got backtracked a little bit. So now we're just looking at this certain circumstance and the situation of what happens. What happens? What does one thing mean? What does the other thing mean? Well, I'm telling you, folks, this game is going to decide the fate of quite a few factors. You may say that I'm being a little bit too dramatic but I don't think I am. Hear me out. If Arkansas gets blown out in this game from the jump, everyone gets in there at 11 a.m., packed crowd, beautiful day. People just want to see hopefully a good game. And from the jump, Notre Dame is just beating the crap out of Arkansas. Arkansas's offense can't do anything. Their defense can't do anything. It's just an embarrassing, and you end up seeing a lot of empty seats by halftime. If that happens, I think it's going to tell all of us, if not quite a few of us, everything we need to know. The team doesn't want to play anymore. Kind of mailed it in. Don't want to play for the coach. Writing's on the wall. You've lost 3 straight games. You're sitting at 2-3. You get a bye week, but it doesn't get any easier for you. You have some really tough games, and one of them being on the road against Tennessee coming up next. To me, it's just going to tell all. It's going to tell all. It's going to make the decision of what needs to happen. Now, I'm not saying, again, that it's going to happen in the way of walking off the field getting fired. But I think it pretty much seals everyone's fate of the direction of what the rest of the season is going to be like. This could, folks, turn into something similar of what we saw in 2023. If you remember correctly, Arkansas, that year that went 4-8, had a lot of close one-possession losses in the beginning part. Lost to LSU by a field goal, lost to BYU by a touchdown, lost to Alabama by a field goal, lost to Ole Miss by a touchdown. Like all these games in the early going. I think even Texas A&M was a close one, if I'm not mistaken. Point is that you had all these close games, but it didn't matter because you lost. But then at the end of the season, a lot of people let go of the rope. There were some major changes that happened. There was a coordinator that got fired in the middle of the year. There's all of this. Well, this year so far, kind of giving the same vibe, isn't it? You lose to a SEC team by one possession on the road. You lose to a team like Memphis, a group of 5, group of 4 team, however you want to put it, outside the conference, and you lose to them close. And now you have Notre Dame. And if the Razorbacks can't get up for this one, get up for the whole element of being back home and being back in front of your home fans and playing against a team like Notre Dame, if you can't get up for this, then it's all she wrote. It's all she wrote. But on the other case, what if Arkansas wins this? You know, the line for this game has been moving quite dramatically. It's been going random places, but it's still pretty close. I think last I checked was about 3.5, 4 points. Notre Dame was favored. And it wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world to me if Arkansas won. I'm not saying it's going to be a normal thing if they end up, going out there and taking care of business. It'll probably be pretty dumb for the most part, but still, I believe that there will be plenty of fans confused, not really knowing what to do with this, not really understanding what this means or what direction that it needs to be taken. If anything, it's just going to pop up everybody's interest and suddenly say, hey, why? Why did you do this? Why did you win when everything's supposed to be bad? Like the season's supposed to be done. You're supposed to be done now. Why are you still trying to perform? And it's going to put people in a pretzel, myself included. Like, I'm not going to know really what to do and what to think. I mean, you're obviously not going to fire Pittman, not in the middle of the year at least. They're going to go into the bye week with some momentum, I guess. And then you're going to have a lot of the national media looking back at it as a big picture and saying, well, Arkansas, they beat Notre Dame and they've only got 2 losses by 1 possession. It's not like it's Sam Pittman's fault. I mean, come on. I'm just trying to set you guys up for this because if Arkansas wins, a lot of the national media are going to come at you and mock you and say that you don't like. What did you expect? What did you think was going to happen? All this crap. And then if you want to move on from Sam Pittman, it's just because you don't understand. You just don't get it. You should be happy with your 6-6 because you're Arkansas. It's going to happen that way. But it's quite a dilemma. It's quite a dilemma that Razorback fans are in. It's like, what if you win? I mean, does that change? If you want Sam Pittman gone, does that change your mind about everything? I don't think so. But at the same time, if he does win, you can't fire him. And you got to see what the rest of the season holds, right? And is it like maybe like a game-changing moment, a season-changing moment where they rally around him? I don't know. Again, I am never the type that's going to root against the Razorbacks for change to be made. I'm not built that way. But man, oh man, it could cause a really big stir if something crazy like this ends up happening. I can't wait. I can't wait to see the reactions from it all. It's going to be legendary. We'll get into some communication. Communication is important for many reasons. We'll talk about that here in a second. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, this episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. To those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. These are the moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is, of course, when Arkansas was able to do some really great things, not only on the field, but trying to move the game forward. I wish they would have done a little bit more than this past weekend against Memphis, but going up against Notre Dame, I think it's actually going to happen. I think it's actually going to be an offense that's going to move the game, and it's going to be Taylon Green. Taylon Green's going to be the guy that moves the game forward, no matter what it is. It's like he's a matter of just keeping the game in front of him. And if Arkansas is going to win this game, if they have a chance to win this game, it's going to be coming down to him and his playmaking ability, going up against one of the worst defenses, statistically speaking, in the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So it could really, really get pretty nasty, pretty crazy, pretty wild for Arkansas. But I think as long as you have Taylon Green in there, you're always going to have a chance. You're always going to have a chance against Notre Dame. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So I know people are kind of just waiting on what's going to be happening with Arkansas and with Sam Pittman and, you know, this situation with him. And I've already gotten people DMing me and messaging me about coaching candidates. And it's like, man, I'm not saying you're wrong for wanting that. I'm not saying you're wrong for everything there. But let's just be honest about it. There's a lot of things that have to happen first. And we can't even dive into that. You know, we can't even dive into that. So people are already just waiting for the next move to be made, whether it's a firing or retiring or whatever. But one of the questions, though, I have been asked, and I think it's a fascinating question to discuss, is dealing with, you know, fixing issues within the athletic department. And, you know, I've done a lot of podcasts on this talking about how to fix a few things that I would do. And there are so many other things that I could bring up, like, you know, I hate the fact that Arkansas has so many shades of red in apparel. I think that's dumb. I think it's dumb that you have the game day experience in the, we'll call it stadium or arena, wherever you're at, that experience is always going by the wayside because you have a bunch of people who don't understand Arkansas. And I'll tell you this, folks, I've had people, I remember when I was at the U of A, and then they've had some marketing people there that wanted to take the hog call out of games and stuff as much as possible because they thought it was hokey. And I'm like, that's immediately why I hate everyone. So, but either way, there's a lot of those minor things we could look at. But if people want to know why I was as upset as I was earlier this week, as well as why I was so harsh and critical of so many things that's going on within the athletic department itself, dealing with the fans and everything, I think it can be chalked up to one thing and one thing only. It's communication. Communication. If there were things that I had said, which I've only said things that I would either know for a fact or that I hear from trusted people that have told me such things. If I had been wrong about any of those things that I have said, I would gladly admit I was wrong if somebody talked to me about it or called me out on it and said it wasn't true or whatever. I would gladly be like, all right, well, maybe I need to revisit this. And I'm not saying that from my own ego. I'm talking about just in general. Like, for instance, when Hunter Yurchek made those comments about the not winning a championship or whatever, it was a very obvious thing that so many fans took issue with it. I did. They were writing articles about it. National media people caught wind of it. It was a bad look. It was a bad comment. Shouldn't have been made, especially by the athletic director. And when everyone took their approach on it and took their criticisms, which all were justified, there was no follow-up. There was no, hey, that's not what I meant. There was no statement. There was no nothing. Now, I'm not saying that any time that a coach or an AD or anybody's criticized that they have to respond to everything, but it's a matter of if you're the vast majority of your fan base, and it's obviously a very big deal in how they feel and they feel strongly about it. If you were taken out of context or if you didn't mean something you said, then I feel like PR 101 would be you to follow up with trying to clarify your statements. That didn't happen. So why? Like, why would it not happen? And there's a lot of other things, too, that have gone on that I think that could be fixed and could be easily handled better than what we've seen if the communication was just where it needed to be. But it's not. The communication is just non-existent. And so many fans felt like after last football season, for instance, when a lot of people wanted Sam Pittman to go, that it wasn't happening. But there was no explanation to anything. It wasn't a statement put out like there was in 2023 of Sam Pittman's our guy. We believe in him. He's going to take us forward. Nope, none of that. Just another day at the office. It just seems like there's so much more that could be done for communication. If you need the NIL, if you need the collective to get high amounts of money, then show the sense of urgency behind it. Show the sense of meaning that you have to have this and getting it to a certain level. If you don't get it to a certain level, it's going to be trouble. Like if you put the sense of urgency into it, people are going to really feel it. But it's just like they don't care. I keep going back to that. So that's my thing about fixing issues. Obviously, you got to win. That's priority number one. But for the fans' sake, they just want to be communicated with. And I don't care if you do it on social media. I don't care if you do it with radio interviews. I don't care if you do a press conference. I don't care, however you want to do it. But you need to do it for the fans' sake. Because this type of stuff is just going to continue to climb and continue to get worse. And people just resent you because if you don't have any communication, it means that you don't care, as I've said. So if we're trying to fix things, if you're trying to fix the way things are done, then hey, just talk. Let people know what you're doing. I think that would go a long way. We're going to look at the rest of the SEC and some of the madness going on in the SEC here on the other side of the break. So stay with us on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, all you Arkansas fans out there, it's almost the weekend, and it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you could win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered the most. So let's break it down. This past weekend, there wasn't a whole lot of players that delivered, at least on their performances. But I will say, Rohan Jones is a guy that continues to impress me. I really like what we get to see from him in those small examples that we have been able to get to actually see him. And he seems like a dude that's got freakish athleticism. He's got an ability that can really make the hybrid of a tight end or wide receiver be extremely beneficial. And I'm just really impressed by him. He's a lot better than I thought he would be. And he needs to keep on playing well. And I think the elements that they could bring in the tight end game could really be helpful as well. And just like Rohan Jones delivered for the Razorbacks, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. We're also presented by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot pack, the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most about them is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost that you needed. No matter what it is, wherever you're at. If it's something you're about to do with the athletic side of stuff, playing a golf game or anything like that, it's going to have you taken care of. Or maybe it's going to be just one of those days at the offices where you're going to crash later in the afternoon. Take a little 5 Hour Energy. It's really going to help you out. So enough of the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine flavor an upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love and be bold and try something new in store and online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. Okay, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So I just was thinking about the games this weekend in the SEC, and I think a lot of Razorback fans are probably going to be watching. There's some interesting ones. A lot of you are going to be at the game, of course, watching Arkansas Notre Dame. But you got LSU and Ole Miss, which is a phenomenal game. That's at 2:30 right after the Arkansas game on ABC. You got Auburn, Texas A&M, fascinating game there. Alabama, Georgia. I mean, come on. Could you have anything better than that? So a lot of great slate of games on Saturday. And luckily, none of them are at the same time of Arkansas. That's kind of the thing, at least for the SEC. Now, they always have the big noon kickoff and having some fun with that too. I think USC and Illinois, for what that's worth, get to see old Burt get after it, and that game being played in Champaign, Illinois. So either way, there's some fascinating things there. But one of the things I also wanted to bring up in the closing here was Auburn. They got that call against them this past weekend against Oklahoma, and Isaiah Satania for Oklahoma actually had the play where it shouldn't have counted. It was a hidden player, and the officials should have known that it was illegal, but they knew about the play going into it, and they allowed it to be ran. They allowed them to score, and the SEC listed out an official statement. This was like Monday, really early in the week, and that was it. Like it sucked. But then I see like the athletic director and everybody for Auburn comes out on Thursday night. And they've already had all this nonsense. And they come out Thursday night, they're like reiterating, this is just, we're very disappointed with the situation and all this. And I'm like, I get it. I'm somebody who's complained about officials many times. I get it. I get the fact that you're upset. I get the fact that it's a bunch of malarkey, that you should never have been in that situation where you lost a game because of a call. But here's the thing. You didn't technically lose the game because of that call. It wasn't like the final call of the game in overtime or anything like that. It wasn't like you spiked the ball behind you and should have been called a fumble, and instead it wasn't, which would have won you the game, like what happened to Arkansas in 2020 against Auburn. So my point is like, I get fans get fed up and everything, but what's the point of dragging this out and bringing it up and whining about it once again on a Thursday night when it's already been apologized for? And again, it shouldn't have happened. And I'm not saying that Auburn fans shouldn't have been upset, but you still had opportunities to win the game. Like it wasn't the game winning play. It may have been game changing, but it wasn't game winning or losing. You had opportunities. You just didn't make up for it. And yet you're throwing a fit and being a bunch of babies. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I think it's funny because I'm like, man, just get over it. But it's just lame. It's just lame, especially when Auburn has gotten away with so much when it comes to some of the calls against Arkansas. Maybe I'm just a little bit bitter about that. But I'm just nice to see somebody else having to deal with that instead of Arkansas. Usually it's Arkansas that has to deal with that nonsense. But luckily it's somebody else. I'm sure that Arkansas will not get screwed or anything like that in any calls this year. Totally, right? Totally. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter, John Nabors Show, for any questions, comments, concerns you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. No, not tomorrow afternoon. Monday afternoon. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you then.